Hi, this is Tommy Stevens with K2 Enterprises, and welcome to another in a series of technology tips. In today's tip, we are going to focus on how to make your charts more effective by adding something called performance bands, particularly in cases where we're building line charts. Of course, many business professionals use charts when attempting to communicate. Unfortunately, however, these charts are not always as helpful as they should be. A pretty common fault that we find is that when creating a chart that illustrates trends, we fail to put the data into context. That makes it more difficult for the readers to truly understand the meaning that you're trying to communicate with that chart. Fortunately, though, if you're building your charts in Excel, you can very easily remedy this situation by adding performance bands to your charts. Look at the two charts that are currently shown on the screen, the one on the left and the one on the right. Now, these charts are drawn from the exact same identical set of data. I would argue that the chart on the right is a more effective chart than the chart on the left, simply because the chart on the right includes a performance band showing upper and lower boundaries, if you will, of levels of acceptable performance. Even though both charts are showing the same actual data, we can clearly see in the chart on the right that for the months of May and June, our inventory on hand has exceeded the maximum acceptable level as defined by that performance band. Now, what we're going to do in this tip is show you how you can build performance bands in your Excel-based charts. The good news here, it's much easier than you might think. Now, as you can see, I've repositioned my screen just a bit to focus clearly on the data first, and then we can begin focusing on the chart. Performance bands are simply visualizations that identify acceptable boundaries for the data. Look at the data that's currently on your screen, and you will see in rows 2 and 3 of the spreadsheet that we have a lower limit as well as an upper limit. These two values, the lower limit and the upper limit, will constitute our performance band when we build the chart. Unfortunately, we can't build the chart from the data as it is currently constructed. So let's make just a couple of quick modifications. What I'm going to do is just copy that data range and paste it down below. And then I'm going to go in and delete delete all of the values for the lower limit, the upper limit, as well as the actuals. Now we're just going to use a couple of formulas to link some data in. For example, I am going to link the lower limit in, and I'm going to link the actual values in from the original data set. Now, to create my upper limit, I'm going to build a very simple formula, and that formula is going to look at the upper limit from the original data set, and from that we are going to subtract the lower limit from the original data set. So basically for our upper limit, what we're getting is not the value of $700,000 as it existed previously, but instead we're getting the incremental value to take us from the lower limit up to the upper limit. Now with those formulas in place, let's just copy everything across the data range, and now we're ready to go in and begin building our chart. To try to keep things a little bit clear, I'm just going to scroll up a bit to get the original data set off the screen so we can focus only on the modified data set. And with this modified data set in place, building the chart is actually a pretty simple exercise. What we're going to do, we'll go ahead and just select the range. Many of you know it's not necessary to actually select the range. I could have just clicked anywhere inside the range if I desired. But with that range selected now, I will click on the Insert tab of the ribbon. I'm going to go and choose Excel's Recommended Charts feature. Of course, Recommended Charts appeared all the way back in Excel 2013. Recommended Charts is examining my data for me. And notice that the third chart from the top that it's presenting is a stacked area chart. Now that's the chart type that we need to work with, and I could have gotten to that chart type manually by clicking on all charts, going to area charts, and then choosing my stacked area chart here. Whichever way I get there is immaterial. The important thing is we need to start with this stacked area chart. So I'm going to choose that chart type, click OK, and now I have a stacked area chart on my screen. Now clearly that does not do exactly what we want it to do, at least not just yet. So let's make a couple of quick modifications to it. First off, notice that the actual values are sitting on top in this chart, and I am going to right click on those actual values and choose to change that chart series type. Now, of course, that's not changing the chart for all three of the value series. It's only changing it for this specific series. And so it's opening up this dialog box for me. And what I want to do is take the actuals down here at the bottom of that dialog box and flip those over to a simple line chart without markers. So I'm going to make that a line chart without markers and click OK. Now, I'm going to go and take this blue area at the bottom. That's my lower limit, and I don't want that to be visible at all. That is to say, I want to get rid of the colors, so I'm just going to right-click on that data series and say that I want to format that data series. As I go to format the data series, I'll get into the fill options, and I'll say that I want to set that to no fill. You can begin to see the performance band taking shape. And now finally, a little more formatting ought to do the trick. I'm going to select what effectively now amounts to the performance band, and I'm going to change the formatting on that. Let's put that in a little bit of light gray. And just because I want a stark contrast between my actuals and the performance band, I'll select what became the line chart and maybe put that in black. So now I've got a very stark contrast on the chart. At this point, just clean up a little bit of formatting. I like to remove everything off the chart that I believe doesn't add value. I don't see a lot of value in some of the things that were up there. Well, I didn't mean to do that. Actually clicked in the wrong spot there. So I'm going to go in and perhaps take away these tick marks down at the bottom of the screen, maybe make some other formatting changes. I won't take up your time to do that. But what I want you to see with respect to this chart is once we go in and clean it up for a little bit of formatting, and I'll show you a final product in just a moment. Once we clean up a little bit of formatting on it, we now have a very effective chart because we can see the trend line of our actual results relative to the minimum and maximum, or the lower limit and upper limit boundaries that we have established. As you can see, I've taken care of a few of the formatting issues, and now what we have, of course, is our final chart in place. Clearly, this customized chart is a more effective form of communication, certainly much more effective than just a simple line chart, because now we're seeing the acceptable levels of performance relative to the actuals. So therefore, the next time you need to present data relative to a range of acceptable performance, consider adding a performance band to your chart. Thanks for taking time to watch this tip. We hope that it's been helpful to you, and visit us often as we continually update content on our website.